Hello, everyone. My name is Cesar Guerrero, and welcome to Tech with Cesar. Today, I'm covering custom objects for Oracle Fusion, and this is important when you need to know relationships, reporting. Again, my name is Cesar Guerrero, and I am a consultant who implements Fusion sales and service. However, custom objects go beyond just sales and service, and today I'm hoping to go over what they are, how they work, and so let's get started. So today I'll be going through what custom subjects are, then we'll go and speak about the different types of relationships, then how to connect records or how they're connected, following followed by how we see this in our data, and then lastly I will do a live demo where we will go through the configuration steps. So sit tight and enjoy. All right, so what is a custom object and what does it deliver? So, first, a custom object is that it's a custom object, it's not delivered out of the box. So, if we're thinking of sales, it's not a part of accounts, opportunities, leads. It is something that doesn't exist. And I'll give you a few examples. So, I've had some projects where the customer needs to capture, for example, a timesheet, or maybe users need to capture their time. So that's not out of the box when we think of service and sales. But if we need to capture time, then we would solution that through a custom object, especially if we're not implementing ERP, HCM, or any of the other modules that might have a timesheet. Maybe that would require a full other implementation that the business doesn't need. So custom objects allow us to solution for this. Of course, being a consultant, my first recommendation is if you can go out of the box, go out of the box. But if you cannot, or if it's kind of overkill to have a out of the box solution because it will cost a lot more money and increase the scope by a lot, a custom object could be a solution. And I would say that as long as it falls within the bounds of app composer, you're probably fine. I just wouldn't add a billion scripts to it, right? And you want to keep it as simple as possible, in my opinion. However, it is a case by case on how you set them up, how you use them. One other thing to keep in mind is thinking about the architecture. How do you want to scale with it? If something like timesheets as your custom object is a full solution, you're never going to move out of it because you're not going to need to. Then you probably go a little more all out with it. Meaning, I put some more. You can add a little more customization to it. But if you're thinking of maybe moving over to Oracle Time and Labor or another timekeeping tool, I would keep it as simple as possible so that when that migration's coming, or when you're going to implement the new tool, it's a little more straightforward. But just some things to think about when thinking about a custom object. So next, let's talk about relationships and how they work. From a Fusion side, there are three different types of relationships that are offered. We have one-to-one, which, let's stick to the timesheet custom object example. If your user, or actually I got a little a fun one. Right now, if we're thinking if Netflix, with Netflix account, you know how we can have one Netflix account and then it can be to one household? That's a one-to-one relationship. One household can only have one account. However, if we go into what if you have one Netflix account but then you have sub accounts, you almost think about this as child objects for Netflix, right? Your sub accounts. Because I have an account, my wife has an account, and let's say my younger brother lives with me. If he did, then he would have his account as well, and then but we would all share the same household account through Netflix. So there's one overall account, but they would all be child accounts underneath, right? Or child records, even depending on how the setup is. So that was just a fun way of thinking about it. But Netflix overall, right? Like if we thinking about it as, if we think of another, of another, another example right now, one of the projects I've had, they're doing a project management implementation, and they have a concept of contracts and projects, right? But one thing is that their contracts can have multiple projects, and then vice versa. A project can be a part of multiple contracts, and that is a many to many relationship. It just depends on what fits your use case. And this is important because Oracle delivers on all three, but it's important to think about what's needed so that way you can guide the users to the best approach, because there's different ways of implementing a one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. And again, me personally, I'm more of a visual learner, so if it's more helpful to wait until the demo, then maybe skip forward until we go to the demo. But next, we'll be talking about subject areas. So, what are subject areas? So, I do see these objects and fields. So, in Oracle, again, one of the things I was talking about, one to many, one to one, and many to many. Depending on how we're implementing those, we're feeding our subject areas data in different ways. And that's why it's important to think about how we're implementing these. So child records, for example, I'll cover that one and attributes, but then I'll visually show you when we're going through the demo. For child objects, if we have, let's say a service request, and you need to have time reported under each service request, you can build that time object as a child object if it's only going to be utilized within that child level. However, if you need to report time on service tickets and then you need to report time on opportunities, then a child object wouldn't work. You would need something like a related objects. You would need to configure it as a related object, so that way timesheet could be reported on anytime you're working on a sale or anytime you're working on a service ticket. Maybe your users are hybrid. And then lastly, attributes. If you need to create a relationship based on a specific field, we can do that. And how we solution this will be how we feed data. And this is important for two reasons. One, it defines how the data will be intertwined for how users use the system. And then second, for reporting. Because depending on how the data is fed, you'll be able to report differently, and there'll be different ways to be able to connect records. So for a use case I've seen is, again, let's timesheets. Maybe if you're a manager, you need a report on a specific SR and how many people have worked on that service request. And being able to have that relationship set up correctly will make it much more simpler when reporting. And then let's go into our last slide. So we've talked a little bit about subject areas, but this is more of the execution. So what would happen when we're reporting? We would choose our primary object. We would choose our primary object in the subject area configuration, add any related data, so the fields and child objects that we might want to relate. Again, we might want timesheets, or we could do something like service requests, and maybe we have an established relationship through timesheets, and then after we establish and define that in the subject area tool in App Composer, we would then publish, and then we could go into OTBI and build out the report. And I list out the areas you would be in underneath that. So I hope that was helpful. I know we covered a lot, so if you need to see the video twice or maybe 3 times, go for it. But again, I'm a visual learner. I'm going, if I were you, go through this once, but I think the demo piece may help you really connect it together. And if you have any questions or comments on anything we went through, please comment them below or send me a message through Oracle Connect or any other mediums where I'm available, and I would gladly explain or make a follow-up video. So let's go into the demo. All right, everyone. So welcome to the demo. Let's get started. So what is the first step when creating a custom object? First, we got to go into a sandbox. Click into that. And we have to choose Application Composer, or App Composer or Application Composer. We're going to create. Let's call this custom object. And then, or actually, I'll show you what I like to do is I'll put my initials, or I'll just do Tech with Cesar, custom object, and then today's date, and today is the August. So I'd do something like 8 to August 2nd. And this allows us to stay a little cleaner when someone hops in, just to know who's working on the environment, what they're doing, what object they're doing, and then the date that this was created. This is a really helpful way of setting up your sandbox, so I recommend it. That's how I used to, or I was taught at Oracle as well. So from here, after we've created our sandbox, we would go into Tools, hit Application Composer. You'd also go into Navigate, the navigator on the far left, and find Application Composer and click into that. Now we're going to click into Custom Object, and let's do timesheet. I feel like that's been my example, so I'm going to go through that. And then we get a few different options. So we get our display label, what's everyone going to see, record name type. We can have, okay, so for record name data type, so do you want the name to automatically be created? You can select that, or you can make it manual. I'm almost leaning to make it manual just to show you guys how that works, but we can keep it for text. And then you can also select if you want duplicates or not, the object name overall, timesheet. Okay, I think for me, this is good. I would hit OK. We'd create the custom object. And then I'm going to add a few fields. Let's create the layout. And then after creating the layout, let's create some relationships. All right, so our custom object has been created. Underneath, we can see that we can create a child object right here, and it would be a very similar process. In this case, I'm not creating a child object. I think more often than not, I use related objects because they give me a bit more functionality. But again, depending on the design, I may be, you may want to consider a child object. But for today, we'll go over a related object. So there's a bunch of custom objects, but let's go into timesheets. Let's create a few custom fields. And we're going to go into, first, our only custom field is owner. I don't know why this owner field is in the custom area, but every time I create an object, you get an owner field. And an owner field, when you create a record, you automatically become the owner. That's, who owns the record. If you're on an SR or a standard object, you also have an owner. But for whatever reason, owner on custom objects is a custom field. And for standard, you're going to get the same standard fields when you create another custom object. The main thing to keep in mind is you'll have a record name and a record number. Then you also have your created by and date, and then last updated by and date, and then the record ID. This one's usually hidden. The two you want to keep note of are record number and timesheet name. So I'm going to go into custom, and I think if we're going to make a timesheet, there's almost two ways to go about it. I think one, we can add an hours or how many hours we're reporting. We'd also go about it as far as the date time. We do a start time and start date and time and end date and time. But just for simplicity, I'm going to do number. Let's call it hours worked. Hours worked. Then if we click on this on the right, it'll auto-populate the name. We'll make it searchable. For custom objects, I think there's a limit to how many you can index per custom object. I think it's like 8 or 11, but we'll just index it for now. And this indexing it is important because that will make it available, I believe, when you're going into adaptive search. Searchable is in the classic UI. When you made a field searchable, you'd be able to search it in the classic UI. So we did hours worked. I'm also going to do a choice list. So a choice list is another kind of relationship. We're about to pull from, let's call this resource name, because as someone's making a timesheet, they might be they could even be the owner, right? But let's say I'm a manager and someone's out and they work 2 hours and they forget, and I want to make sure that their hours are accounted for. I would use a dynamic field to pull their name, and this field will allow us to reference them. So I created two different kinds of custom field. The first one was a standard number field, and then this one's a reference dynamic field, so pulling from another object. This is a one-to-one relationship because we're doing one user to this one timesheet record. Now let's go into pages, and this is the first step. Whenever you create a custom object, you're going to want to hit create default pages. And I know everyone's moving to Redwood. We could, I'll touch a little bit on Redwood right now in a little bit, but one thing to keep in mind is, for me, when you're testing, the classic UI is the best place to test in, even if you're going into Redwood, because there's certain functionality that it's if you know if it works in classic, maybe there's usually something that's not set up to make it work in Redwood. And when you're working on a support ticket with Oracle, like let's say something's not working the way it's supposed to on an out-of-the-box standard object, many of the times, though, even if you're implementing Redwood, they will ask you to recreate it in classic. So from this experience that I've had, now I build layouts out in classic as well, just for testing. And even if the user's not going to use it, I keep it to do my sanity tests, because they allow me to differentiate if things are working as just a Redwood thing or systematically, there's a change that needs to be done, because classic and Redwood run on the same backend and databases. Like everything on the backend works the same. It's just the front end that's different. So now I'm going to create two new layouts, for the creation page and the details page. So let's do this one first. Let's do a create page. Let's do a create. If you see, the only thing we have are timesheet and the owner. So I'm going to move a few things on there. Let's move the resource name up there, the owner. Maybe we don't need that. And maybe we just need record hours. or no, hours worked. And, you know, I don't think we would need this. We may need this one because if you remember that field where we said, you know, make it auto magic or not, I can't remember if we can create a record without the timesheet name. Yeah, so I think we need a timesheet name unless you make it automatic, because that is going to be you must add the following required field. Oh, owner. Okay, it wasn't even the name. So the owner is the only one. Oh, timesheet name as well. All right, so I was right. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to hit done. And then we're going to duplicate the details page. And let's call this the details page. And you can, the reason why you might have multiple pages here is because there may be different views for different user roles, and you're able to do that by having, you can define different layouts depending on what your criteria is here. So we'll do resource name again, and then hours worked. Then I'll do it here, and we'll go here. Point of this demo. So let's go back. We've made our layout. As far as Redwood, we'll build relationships after this, but just because I opened the conversation, if you were to move this object onto Redwood, you could use something like the CX extension generator. And then this generator allows you to import the custom object or create a import document that you can add into Visual Builder to export it. So I'll just open it up and I'll close it just so you can see how it looks. But this is Oracle's solution to helping you migrate your Fusion application to Redwood. And I am in a demo environment, so it may take a little longer here, but just know that if you need to, for whatever reason, create a Redwood page, click on CX extension generator, and then it'll open up. And this is how it looks, and you can create a new extension and work here. But again, that's for another day. Okay, we've created our timesheet object. Now let's connect it in a few different ways. Let's create a relationship. And where do you do that? Down here. We can create relationships right here. And I'm going to create it with accounts. So let's do an account object. And maybe whenever someone's working on a specific account, or let's do opportunities. Whenever users working on a specific opportunity, there needs to be a timesheet. Opportunity to timesheet. All right, let's. Oh, it's not letting me. Opportunity time. Let's stick to what we had. Oh, let me go back. So what I wanted to do was many to many, but you could do a one-to-one as well. That is how you define relationships. So if we scroll down, we'll see timesheet. Let's write it, timesheet. I think I called it. All right, so here we go. We have opportunity to timesheet, right? So if we look here, we have a few relationships happening, and I wanted to share with you how they've been built. One of them's been built through our field that connects the timesheet to a resource. Then we created another relationship through the system to an opportunity. But if we wanted to add or utilize that relationship, we would go into, in this case, we would go into the details page. And let's create a custom object. Let's do a related relationship. And if you look here, is it? I don't think this one would be a child, but nope. Yep. And there's a relationship. So this is one of the things that's important, because what I just did was we did it the other way around. If we go to opportunity, and this is still going to work. I think this is even better because now I can show you the one-to-one from here, but then we'll also be able to go here and we find opportunities. Let's go to the page. And let's hit this. So this little paper icon allows you to create the different relationships. So let's see. I'm going to create a new one. All right, and here we see it. This is the details page. I'm going to hit the plus button. Again, related object. And we would go in here, and here's our timesheet relationship. And we can add what fields we want from here. So we want to see the resource name, and we want the hours worked on the opportunity. So now I'm going to save and close. So why is this important? How is this going to work? Now I want to explain to you the different relationships we've established. One is for the resource. That's through an attribute, which is the resource name. We're pulling from the resource table, and we're creating a relationship. Each timesheet is related to one resource. Now with opportunities, each opportunity can have multiple timesheets. We can add multiple timesheet records here, and that's fine. That's actually what we prefer. That in a real use case, I could see a customer saying, hey, every time I have a sales rep working on a timesheet, maybe they're contractors, I need them to log their time, how long they worked in there. Maybe it's in minutes, hours, and it needs to be on each opportunity. This would be a good way of implementing it, the way we just implemented it right now. So let's hit done. And one of the reasons why you might be asking, like, why did you hit duplicate? Usually, and it kind of depends on permissions and the setup, but usually in Classic, the one at the top takes the priority unless you don't meet any of the criteria. This is saying any, so I'm guessing any role, this layout's going to show up first, but I guess we'll check right now. So let me just do a sanity check. We created our object, timesheet. We created our relationship with opportunity down here. Relationship, where is it? And then we added the relationship to an opportunity object. Okay, now let's go home. And actually, there's one thing missing, right? The two things I want to talk about, and but how are we going to get into the custom object? Right? Where's it? Usually it goes to other, but we can change it by going into structure, adding the structure, and from there you can kind of define where you move the object. So that's how you do it. But let's go into the timesheet object first, and then we'll go into opportunity. Again, we're doing it all from Classic, so this will be the Classic UI or look and feel, right? So we have none. Going to hit create. No records, so And let's call this one test 1. We'll do resource name. Let's do Natalie sales rep. We'll do 8 hours. Right? And one thing that I don't have on here that if we were really building it out correctly, I would add an opportunity field right here so that we could have our opportunity a record. But right now, we're just saying maybe in this scenario, this is Natalie's normal working hours and they're not associated to an opportunity and they want her to log them here. But whenever she's working on an opportunity, if we go into sales and then I need to see if workspace has been enabled. Yep. We're going to click into an opportunity. Let's go into opportunities. Let's go into this one. And what I'm expecting to see is the timesheet object on the far left. And here it is, timesheet. We're going to create a record here. And we're going to say, again, test 2. There you go. Natalie. And maybe this time Natalie worked 3 hours on this one. All right, now let's hit done. So let's go into timesheet. And I want to show you that both of the records are there. All right, so that is our demo on creating the custom object. Let's publish this. And why am I publishing it? It's because in order for the subject area to be set up, we need to first publish it. Because from what I remember, we don't need to be or we can't be in a sandbox when we, if for the reporting setup or setting up the subject areas piece. But we're almost done. So let's give it a minute just to finish publishing. All right, so our object's been complete. So we're outside of the sandbox. It's been published. So my next goal is just going back to other. We see timesheet. And so I'm going to grab the URL of this environment, which you guys cannot see, but just know that I'm pasting it, doing a / in analytics. And then I just want to show you that if we were to hit create and we go analysis and we hit, and I may not have access to it, but anyways, the main reason I want to show you is usually you would get a long list of reporting subject areas here. When it comes to custom objects, I will say 2 things. And something that I haven't spoken about. This is where users and roles also come into effect. There is a custom role that you need, and it's like CRM custom objects role, and you need to have that in order to enter the custom object. There's also there may be variants of that one, but just know that there's a custom role in order for users to see custom objects. So if you're not being able to see it, that may be one of the reasons. But I don't have the privilege right now, but I still want to show you what would be next, right? We can't see the custom object in analytics, but just know that there's one more step if we needed to report within OTBI, and it would be here, custom sub, and we'd go into custom subject areas there on the left, or we would click on this one. We'd hit create, and let's call this timesheet test. Timesheet. You're going to hit next. And let's say we're doing a child object area. No. So if you remember, opportunities is not coming from timesheet. So if you wanted those related areas, we'd have to go back. And let's do opportunity. Yes. And this may be a better way of doing it. That way we merge opportunity data and I'm just going to call it timesheet still. And this is really going to be opportunities, but I don't want to just report on opportunities. Just the way I've set it up, it's going based off opportunities, but if we were to flip it the other way around, or I would have changed up the configuration, you could change up what we're doing right now. So right now, although the primary object is opportunities, by doing it in this way, we're going to be able to report on both opportunity and timesheet. So I'm going to hit the plus sign here, and then we're going to go here, timesheet, and here's that relationship that we created. Why is this important? Now that we've created that relationship, we're going to hit next, and see, we're going to get all of these opportunity fields, which it's a lot, right? It's a decent amount, but if we keep scrolling down, we should see, and it's not appearing here. And it may be because timesheet doesn't have its own area yet. Oh, it's because it's here, timesheet. I was wondering where it was at. I was like, okay, so if you see here, we can select the fields from both timesheet and opportunity. So I just wanted to show you that. So if we click here, we can see that we get our timesheets, and then we get the opportunity object. Darn it, I just hit cancel on that. Oh, but here it is, still there. Cool. Okay. I'm just gonna go back one more time. Relationship's still there, timesheet's still there, opportunity's still there. Let's hit next. And then from here we can see both of the objects. Opportunities there. Timesheet. Oh, this is important. You see how if you want to go through levels, this is where we'd be able to do it, but the important thing is right now we're just doing base level opportunities, base level timesheets. This is going to be for everyone. Hit next. And submit. And this is the last step to being able to report. Again, because I don't have access in this environment to OTBI, I won't be able to demonstrate it, but I just wanted to show you the different steps needed to create the subject area to then create. And if we go here, let's hit refresh, should be seeing a new subject area. All right, so this is how it would look if it were complete. You see timesheet, and then our target is opportunity, and we have OK. Normally, what you would do from here is you would be able to open this in OTBI by grabbing the URL, pasting the URL, and adding analytics at the end of it. However, give me 1 second. So unfortunately, my user does not have permissions into the subject area I'm trying to get into, or any subject area. So this is going to end, but normally we'd be able to, at this point, go here, look up timesheet, and get our subject area. So I hope this video was helpful, and I will be making a part 2 to make some more edits on the custom object and kind of show you how to modify it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.